If you're looking for an excuse to not even bother learning a foreign language, well, here is a convenient one for you. Children learn languages far easier than adults do, right? So there's no point. We're all just too old. This is the perfect myth to fool you into never even starting to learn a language, because after all, we can hardly turn back the clock and become a child again, can we? But what if this was a whole load of rubbish? A complete myth? Well, keep listening because I'm going to destroy this myth right now. And at the end of the video, look out for something special I'm going to give you that's going to show you exactly how to learn a new language just like a child, but better in a very natural way with no time machine required. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Ollie Richards, and this channel is all about helping you learn a new language quickly through the power of story so you can become fluent faster and live your best life. Now, I think we can agree on this much, can we not? The basic notion that kids learn languages more naturally is a sound one, right? When a toddler learns to speak their mother tongue, they don't have to translate anything. It's their first language, so obviously it's the only one that they can use. They also happen to have a 24/7 native speaker sidekick who's completely obsessed with them and has endless patience. It's pretty much the perfect immersion experience, isn't it? And that's why the idea that kids learn languages faster is a popular one. And as a rule, learning a language without any interference from your native tongue is a very effective thing. But it's not quite as simple as that. Children don't actually have some kind of fantastic supernatural ability with languages that somehow vanishes into the ether one day when they grow up. So is there any truth at all to any of this? Well, if we're talking about the first language you ever learned, then yes. There are case studies on so-called feral children who never learned to speak after they were rescued. They had real problems acquiring the human language. So the theory is that for your first language to take root and grow, there's an ideal window in early childhood, and it's something that linguists love debating, and I'm sure the comment section here will be filled with all kinds of vitriol. But you probably were not yourself a feral kid, and your brain has already done the hard job of figuring out what language is, right? So let's think about you versus a child for a moment. So do you have kids? Do you know someone perhaps with a baby? Think about how adults often talk to babies.
Oochie woochie coochie coo. Oochie woochie coochie coo.
Oochie woochie coochie coo. An obscure Earth dialect, Mr. Spock. Oochie coochie coochie coo. If you're curious, consult linguistics.
Well, to be fair, monkeys do it too, so I guess it works, at least with infants. If you're a few months old, intonation, the ups and downs of your voice, is more important than what's being said. This is all about bonding, expressing emotions, keeping the baby's attention. And on an instinctual level, baby talk, it stirs interest in your language. Now, tell me this. When you take your very first lessons in a foreign language with a teacher, are you hoping to be taught the equivalent of coochie, coochie, coochie? I hope not. That would be a little bit weird, wouldn't it? So how about the next stage of development? When a kid is 3 or 4 and really keen to start talking. So at this point, we stop with the Motherese, but we still choose simple words and the most basic way to express something so that they'll understand, right? But that's okay. I mean, a child doesn't need to know how to order Peking duck in a Chinese restaurant or how to understand directions to the subway in Paris. A child doesn't even need to know the appropriate way to greet a stranger. So kids learn the words they need for basic survival. There's no strategy, no textbook, no lessons, and the biggest thing of all, there's no previous experience. This is literally their first language, so it's impossible for them to be affected by any preconceived ideas that come from having learnt another language in the past. And there is zero chance of another accent from another language interfering with their pronunciation. They don't even know that they're learning a language. A young child has a completely open mind. It's all instinct and reaction. But you are an adult, and adults have fully grasped the concept of language already. You've already been learning one language for a few decades, most likely. When faced with a new language, then you're automatically making judgments about aspects of it that you like or don't like, whether or not you realize it. You're thinking about what kind of phrases will be useful for any given situation. You're choosing what time of day you feel like learning. Is it before breakfast or after dinner? which features of the language are enjoyable for you. You're concerned about formality or whether or not you can use slang. A child has none of these inhibitions. Bottom line, you just can't compare the way adults learn with the way children learn. They are two very, very different things. And here's something skeptical learners don't always consider. How long do you think a child takes to learn their mother tongue? Well, have you ever heard a 4-year-old talking?
There's a big bee. Those are children, and actually purple, that one's queen, the bug.
This is after 4 years of input every single day at 100% immersion. If you were learning, I don't know, Italian every day, all day, for 4 years, I'd be worried if your sentences were still this awkward. Kids take years to learn to communicate in their mother tongue. So you're learning a language. How would you like to sound after just 1 year? What do you think? I don't know, as fluent as a native 1-year-old? Probably not. What about a native 8-year-old? A native teenager? Well, the good news for you is that as an adult learning a language for the first time, you are actually far better equipped for more advanced learning because you already know how language works. You can already interact socially. You have lots of advantages. What's more, you already have a massive vocabulary, meaning that you know the meanings of words and concepts of things that exist in our world. You just have to learn to pronounce them in a new language. The concept is already there, which is not for kids, right? So what parts of this is easier for kids then? Well, look, kids have the following advantages. Young children are primed for natural language acquisition. A child is better equipped for native-like pronunciation because they start off with no accent at all. There's nothing to neutralize or get rid of, except the baby talk, obviously. Now, this doesn't mean it's impossible for adult learners to sound native-like. It's just going to take more commitment. And if you want to get scientific about it, well, different locations in the human brain are responsible for different language learning tasks. Children are well set up to acquire language because their little brains are still being developed. Plus, they're completely surrounded by input when they learn. Every waking hour, there are speaking aids like repetition, gestures, pictures from their parents, right? One of the first things a kid learns is how to ask for food and all the food words that they need. Why? Well, have you ever seen a toddler throw a hunger tantrum? In a child's head, hunger is seriously urgent. All right? It's a life or death situation. And so the language that they need is situational language. It's words and phrases that they need to get what they want right now. And that is mostly what they want to learn. But things like acquiring grammar, syntax, or literacy, and a really varied expressive vocabulary, these things are far easier for older learners. In your native language, you're already a superhero at these things, and this language ability transfers to any languages that you attempt. The older you are, the better you are at deconstructing and analyzing language. As an adult, you're definitely one up on children when it comes to intelligence, discipline, and consistency. So, my friend, why worry that children can learn better than you? Just because you might think it's too late. It's not logical. Your needs are completely different. Age is only one factor affecting language learning. There's also motivation, personal feelings, social context, the learning environment you find yourself in. All of these have a powerful impact on the degree to which you are going to acquire the language. But all of this doesn't mean we can't also steal tips from the young ones. There's some powerful magic there. Adults are often guilty of wanting instant gratification. So we look for convenience and shortcuts and those silly apps. Let go of the need to control things. Try to just let learning happen, let language happen. This is what kids do, after all. They practice talking every day, talking and talking and talking. They absorb new language from conversations around them with no agenda. They listen to stories all the time. The same stories over and over. Have you ever read to a kid? You've got to read the same stories over and over and over and over again. And then they try to repeat them back to you over and over again. A song will be sung literally 100,000 times. Hey, you can absolutely do this too, only better. Because when it comes to grasping the fundamentals of the language, like basic grammar, you can do this far quicker than kids do. You can learn in months what a kid might take 5 years to learn and 10 years to master. But although you can't have the same luxurious immersion environments as kids do, you can model their linguistic environment. How? Well, for a start reading and listening to stories in the language that you're learning, like kids do. Listen to conversations. Practice conversations, like kids do. The really important thing is not to spend all your time with your head in a textbook, sitting in a classroom, because kids certainly don't do that to learn their languages. Now, if you're curious about how to take this story-based approach that kids use to learn languages and apply that to your own language learning as an adult, then you should check out this free story learning kit that I have you. It's packed full of information about how to learn a language quickly with stories. You've got video masterclasses, cheat sheets, audio lessons, and a lot more. For many people, this kit changes the way that they think about learning languages. So just click the link right over here to get free access right now.